Oh. So in the mornings, we're studying Bhagavad Gita. And we'll talk about what it means to study something. And Bhagavad Gita study starts with a prayer, and it's called Geeta Dhyanam. And there should be, and we'll check, in your kirtan books, there should be a loose leaf sheet. And if there's not, for our guests, one of our Sangha will find one and get one to you. Hari, there's one right there. Please get it and be ready to hand it off. Okay, does anyone else not have? Okay, very good. Ethan, you found one? No? Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. So there's yours. Okay, so this is an English translation of a Sanskrit prayer. So we get to read it together and actually hear what it's meaning, what it's saying. So we can do. Om. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters from within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us, O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy, Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. And people of purified intellect are the drinkers. The milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hari Om Tat Sat. So, who's new to the Bhagavad Gita? Completely new. Have you read any of it, or pretty new?
Years ago.
Years ago. Okay, very good. Jody?
I'm not completely new. I've been on the outskirts.
Okay.
Reading, the Dalai Lama.
Sure. Yeah. Not new to Eastern philosophy.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Yourself too?
Yeah, I think I've read parts of it a long time ago.
Okay. And Ethan, a little. So here's the. So in all of the great teachings, and Bhagavad Gita is one. Is not the only one. Every one of the great teachings strikes the same themes, actually, and is pointing to our potential and how to reach our potential through life in the world. And so in that way, Bhagavad Gita is no different than any of these. It teaches what can be said to be the path of freedom. The path of freedom, the path of overcoming that which binds us and being free. So also in the Western tradition, Carl Jung would talk about this, and he called it the hero's journey. And if anyone's heard of Joseph Campbell along the way, Joseph Campbell also writes and teaches of the hero's journey, which is exactly this. It's overcoming that which binds us, that which we have gotten ensnared in, and rising up to our true potential. Jung, interestingly enough, Carl Jung got it. So we could say, an enlightened master teaching modern psychology. And he brought a concept that previously hadn't been brought, which is that there's a higher state than the human animal. So that had been more confined to religious thought. But he observed it, and he called it superconscious state. So Bhagavad Gita is pointing to that, and just a little bit of the story of the Gita, and then we'll pick up. We're in the 18th chapter right now. So people think because the Bhagavad Gita, because of where it takes place on a battlefield, people think that it's a war story or something like that. But really, it's about the inner battlefield. completely. And we see in the first couple of chapters, here's what happens. And it's irrelevant what it is that's Arjuna's duty. The two main protagonists, the two main characters, Arjuna and this photograph up here, that's taken from the only Bhagavad Gita museum in the world, and it's in Los Angeles. ISKCON, which formerly known as the Hare Krishnas, built this museum, Bhagavad Gita museum in Los Angeles in the early 70s. And it's animated. It's the most amazing museum I suppose I've ever been to, but I also have a special place for Bhagavad Gita. So to see the characters in movement, and so that picture is showing in the chariot, Arjuna, who's sitting here on the left, the great warrior about to be tested in battle, and then Lord Krishna, who he selected as his chariot driver, very significant, and his guide. Chariot driver, of course, is our guide. Chariot driver is our guide. The symbolism of it, if we look at our human experience, we see that the chariot that they're sitting in is this body. The horses that are running ahead are the senses. There are 5 horses in that chariot, with that chariot. So the 5 senses running out into the field. Yes? So sight, sound, taste, touch. What am I missing? Sight, sound, taste, touch. Smell. Jai. That was what came, actually, so you picked up. You said, no, sound, we got that one already. So the horses are the senses. The reins between the chariot driver and the horses, the reins are the mind. It's the mind that the senses feed. So when we see something or hear something or taste something, the senses are reporting into the mind. Yes? And then the driver of the chariot, the driver of the body, the one who makes choices, which direction to go? The intellect. Is the intellect. Absolutely. So conscious mind, like that. And so the symbolism is there, and what happens at the very first part of it is, Arjuna, when faced with his duty, it's very daunting, the duty that he's being faced with. We all have this. Has anyone here experienced facing your duty and feeling it's too much? Okay, smile. Very good recognition. Jai. Yeah. Yes, right? You're dealing, yeah. It would have seemed that at some point. But now here you are in the midst of it, and it's okay, isn't it? Yeah. So, and what happens with Arjuna is he faces his duty. It seems like too much, and he freaks out. Those are Kartikeya's words, Sage Kartikeya. Yeah, freaks out. And fight or flight, the whole fight or flight syndrome takes over. And he feels, I want to run away, and now all he wants is to run away. He doesn't want to do it. And that's where the teaching begins. The teaching actually begins there because this is the human experience. If there's anyone that hasn't experienced this at some point, you're free to go. But the rest of it, this is why the Gita and these other teachings are said to be universal teachings. Universal teachings, because the problem is a universal problem. The opportunity is universal in this way. And Lord Krishna tells him when the teaching starts, no, you're supposed to do your duty. Come on, wake up. You were trained for this your whole life. And it just so happens that in the story of the Gita, Arjuna's duty is to prosecute a war, to fight. But that's not the principal part of the teaching. Because every one of us has a duty. And we each face the same. And so what we're dealing with, as Peace Pilgrim would say, is it's as if there are two of us in this body chariot. It's as if there are two. There is the self-centered nature which gets involved and engaged in protection of the idea of me. I'm this body. And so all the mechanisms that will protect me as the body. So fear, the hunger, the desire for something which will give happiness, all of those are instinctive behaviors. And all rooted in the notion that I am this little me right here, as opposed to you. Obviously, since I'm this little me, then you're that little you. Huh? And by the way, water's getting short. There won't be much water. So you and I will have to see who gets it. This is happening now. Have you noticed? You're in Yuma, you see it. Now there's not much water getting down to Yuma in the Colorado River anymore, is there? So the self-centered nature will assert, and it will say, I need my water. And those others, they're taking it from me. And I'm going to have to stand up. So the self-centered self, the little self, as we say, and self-centered in the good of the whole. Peace Pilgrim used to say, and she was centered there very much. She had come to that place. And she would say, for example, I couldn't dream of taking more than what is needed for this, because I know that there's plenty for all. And as long as I don't take more, then... So the self-centered in the good of the whole, or God-centered self, or Krishna-centered self, whatever we say. Intuition, superconscious, which is the all. So Lord Krishna starts teaching that. And where we are in the 18th is it's really the summary chapter. And we've come to the highest teaching, which is teaching of renunciation, which really, the question that starts it is, what is good to renounce? What are we supposed to renounce? You see, Arjuna started with the feeling that he was supposed to renounce his duty. Again, we've all experienced this, haven't we? So what comes to us is difficult, vexing, seems like it's going to cause me pain and problems. Have you experienced? Huh? If I do it, what will it do to me? Will I die? Yes. COVID has brought this forward, hasn't it? Yeah? Yeah? And look at the basic choice that we have. Everyone's suffering. Yes? Everyone has the potential to suffer. And do I put myself first, or do I put the others, or the benefit of all? And most of us, because the self-centered self will say, well, I have to take care of myself first, then we would not do the other. Usually in human experience, we're mixed. We do some of one and some of the other. What Lord Krishna is teaching is, but you are not the body, my dear. You are the infinite. You are the eternal. And the real cause of suffering for you is to take yourself to be this little body, this separate person. That's the real source of suffering. That's the teaching that's being shared. So we say high teaching in that way. It's not something about, well, here, you take this pill and this will protect you from COVID and then you can go out and serve. It's not like that. What Lord Krishna is teaching here is that we are spirit. And so, but not just that, how to realize it, how to live in it, how to be free of suffering, how to be free of the feeling that I'm separate, alone, and incomplete, how to be free of the thought that's arising, I have to take care of myself first. How to be free of that, because these are vexing. And when we look at our life in this world today, real life, it's really this inner battle. We're torn with this. We're torn on the question of what is my duty, even what should I do? And how should I do it? And that's what's being dealt with here. And the 18th is really a summary coming back. So we'll just pick up here. The discussion is on, yesterday it was on action. Sorry, today it's on action. Yesterday it was on knowledge. And we'll just read, there are 3 shlokas here. We can read them together, take some of the commentary, and then any questions and just discuss a little bit. What he's speaking of in this series, now he's really teaching yoga, he's teaching freedom. Knowledge from yesterday, knowledge which will free you, and knowledge which will bind you, like that. And today it's the same action that will free you, and action that will bind you. And we're comparing and contrasting the two. We're not judging. All of this is just to aid us in discernment. And it's not to help us to judge others or even the situation, because everyone's dealing with this battlefield inside. And it's to help us to discern within ourselves what are the friends and what are the foes. Thoughts, desires, motives. What are friendly and leading us up, and what are leading us into deeper states of bondage? Does that make sense? And so everybody's dealing with this stuff inside. It could be said that there was a time when everything was playing outside, but now it's all in our inner worlds. And we don't even recognize, but we're coming to recognize, we're coming to see that there are thoughts and tendencies within us that lead us into bondage, right? But there are also thoughts and tendencies that lead us out. Yeah, both. So mixed. Okay, so here he talks of action. He says, first, an action which is ordained, so proper, which is free from attachment, and which is done without love or hatred by one who is not desirous of any reward. So if we break it down for a second, an action which is ordained, so proper action in the circumstance, which is free from attachment. So I'm not doing it because it's my habit. I'm doing it because it's proper. Okay. Which is done without love or hatred. We say love is good and we say hatred is bad, but for a moment, there's love which is your own highest nature, which flows through everything, but which we can inhibit. This is not the same as passionate love. We feel, I love this and I hate that, right? I love this person and I hate that person. And as a result, I love Mary and I hate Bill. Just roll with me for a second. I love Mary and I hate Bill. Okay. So now, Mary and Bill are both hungry and you have some food. Huh? To what this is speaking of is I love Mary and therefore I'll give her food because she's hungry. And I hate Bill and therefore I will not give him food because he doesn't deserve it. Does that resonate? So that's what's being spoken of here, an action which is not motivated by love or hatred. He's trying to give us a standard to see. So we don't do it because we love this, and we don't not do it because we hate that. So which is done without love or hatred by one who is not desirous of any reward. And recognize this is not easy stuff. So a standard is being set, which leads to freedom. And all of us in our own way, we may listen to this and hear, well, that doesn't make any sense, which is fine. Which is fine. Not desirous of any reward. We're also bound in this notion that somehow we can get the thing in this world that will give us happiness. But by now, we probably have noticed it's impossible. Otherwise, we wouldn't have an interest in spiritual life. So, but we've had the idea that to have the thing that I want, whatever that is, the thing that I love. So Mary, I love Mary. So to have more of Mary, to have Mary as mine, and to have Mary all of the time, that will make me happy. We've had these notions. I had that one, and I also had the one with cars. And I also had the one with money. I was rich with desires. Rich with desires, and therefore poor in happiness. Only through getting the things, it turns out, and we all have to have success. So the great prayer is, may you be successful. Because only by getting the things did I discover, what did I discover? Who wants to say?
Happiness is not there.
Happiness is not there. And there's not enough of any of these things in order to fill us. And the money, I realized at some point, oh my God, I'm just always chasing more. And the more I chase, the less happy I am. So we learn, then what I want is happiness, but for me to live in order to get the thing to make me happy is the opposite of happiness. It's a state of craving, which won't bring what I wanted. So at some point, you know how we learn by putting our hand on the stove as a child? At some point, we realize I'm just putting my hand on the stove. Because I do this, I do it for me. So, not desirous of any reward, that action is declared to be sattvika. What that means is that action is declared to be an action that will free you, that will bring clarity of mind, purity, and unwind your bondage. But that action which is done by one longing for the fulfillment of desires or gain with egoism or with much effort, that is declared to be rajasa, passionate. That action will bind you in more action. In the scheme of things, it's not bad. Because also rajasic passion will help you to see the nature of the things, the nature of the world. The only, we're talking about renunciation. We're talking about renunciation. And you actually only want to renounce that which will hurt you and others. You're not wanting to renounce anything else. You're only wanting to renounce that which will hurt you and others, not anything else. There's no need to renounce anything else.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like
Renunciation, yes, you got it.
of what is not real. Like every time
That's
I
it.
learn something, it's just like seeing beyond the event, the action, just more of a witness and just appreciating the experience.
Yes. So if our life is a dream life. In other words, if we're living a life imagining this and imagining that, then the suffering too is imaginary.
Feel imaginary.
So as long as we are stuck in the cycle of honoring that which is imaginary, which is a false self.
Oh, so I had a dream.
Yes.
So I overcome the fear of death, and there's no death now, from my own understanding. So.
And practically that's happening too, isn't it? Practically,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in my dream,
integrating.
I saw a whirlpool. I looked out.
A whirlpool. Yeah, a whirlpool has been playing out for you recently.
And in my dream, it was a very brave, angry ocean. It was like the deep ocean.
Yes.
And it was a huge whirlpool, and I thought I saw myself, but it was a woman, and I'm not sure if it was me or not, but it was a woman there in the middle of it, and it was huge and angry, but I saw her face, it was just so calm, like kind of like accepted to be surrendered completely.
Yes.
And then as soon as I saw her face, I felt that I had no emotions, it was just serenity, and then it was coming closer to the eye of the whirlpool, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's gonna die. And then I looked away to not see and looked back, and then she was sucking. And then as she went away, the whole ocean went into peace and calmness. It was like, So for me, that was a message of just witnessing all those turmoils that I go through, rather than get kind of just accepted as they come.
Yeah.
And then once it goes away, it was just so much serenity again. So I feel it's correlated to this, that it's just witness, just accepted and witness, and know there's no death, know the real beyond the physical, and work with the story you're caught.
So the third action which is taken out of delusion without a regard for the consequences, and we all, I feel, can relate to this because we've all engaged in this at some point. Without regard for the consequences, the loss, the injury, and one's own ability, that's declared to be tamasic or dark. So it's said that there are three natures of nature: passion, darkness, and purity or clarity. Passion, darkness, or clarity. Passion would seem like excitement to do something in order to get something. Darkness means dullness or not understanding why to do, or in what spirit to do, or not to do any of this. And clarity is as it sounds, being present and not disturbed, and being able to know what's proper to do or not to do and engage in this way. And clarity also implies recognizing the happiness within and the truth within and without, and not getting lost in it. So in that way we say yoga is really a spiritual life, intentional life. Forget the word yoga. Spiritual life, intentional life, rising up is about coming into a state of clarity and being able to keep your wits about you no matter what happens. In other words, being able to be clear no matter what life throws at you, to be able to stay clear. And that's really what's being shared here. So actions that contribute to clarity, which means not attached to it, doing what's beneficial, doing it in a proper way. Yes? Doing it because it's to be done, and you're the one to do it. Not expecting the reward from it. You can accept it, but not expecting it. And that leads to more and more clarity. We'll close here shortly and cover the schedule for the day. Any questions or discussion on the topic? Ethan, anything?
No, I'm enjoying you and the baby.
Sorry?
I'm enjoying you and the baby.
Okay, very good. Jules?
Sorry, you're having with the baby.
You're on it this morning, Dal. By the way, the baby in nature, the baby, especially here, this shows us sattva, or clarity. So you know how you feel in the company of the baby that's being adorable and cute. So, and if you look, you'll see that the mind is not really engaged in anything right now. You're present and observing. Huh? So being in the company of a baby, especially in this way, is also bringing sattva into the mind, bringing clarity. Do you see it, Brina? Yeah. Because of the cuteness, because of the adorability, yes, everything else falls away. No other thoughts, no worries, no cares, right? And you experience joy. So people will say joy is being in the company of the baby, but we would say no, joy is being in the company of yourself. When the mind isn't disturbing. Because you look at other experiences and you see the same is true, that when the mind's not bedeviling you, then you're happy, then you're perfectly joyful. And that's really the essential teaching of all of these teachings. Yeah, is how to be present without the disturbance of the mind, even when things are blowing up. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dao, for the lesson this morning. You are such an amazing teacher, Dao. Okay, we'll close with final prayers and arati. Page 174. We can chant together. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushtivardhanam Varvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushtivardhanam Varvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandim Pushtivardhanam Varvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mokshiyamam Mritat Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Shantu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyanto Ma Kashi Dukhabhag Bhave Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya Mritor Ma Mritam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Mudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And then universal prayer. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent and omniscient. Thou art Satchidananda. Thou art existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion, and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred, and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips. Let us abide in thee forever and ever. Humble our Sakura Shivananda Marji ki, and for all the saints and sages of all the traditions.